We are back for our next video. I'm excited and kind of nervous to be talking about this. You might say I'm stressed about that, and I'm going to be talking about stress today. Now, stress it's almost a 4-letter word, even though it's 5, because it's just seen as a bad thing now. It's everywhere we talk about it. I'm stressed, you're stressed, your kids are stressed, everybody's stressed, we're all busy. Stress, stress, stress. Stress is one of the things that come up all the time when we're talking about our kids, even when we're talking about ourselves. When we're looking at self-regulation and we're looking at how we talk about stress, we're going to go back to the more original idea of stress, which is anything that requires us to expand energy to maintain a balance. So we're going to think about that when we're thinking about stress and when we talk about stressors. So a stress is anything that requires us to expend energy to maintain our balance. So stress can actually be a good thing and a bad thing. If we didn't have any stress, that would actually be a problem. So when we think about stresses and we start thinking about the types of stresses we can have, in self-regulation we start talking about 5 different areas. The first one's biological. Those things are to do with our body, sleep, food, exercise. All these things, again, positive or negative. Going out for a run could be a real positive stress on my body. But it can also make me expand a lot of energy so that I'm not ready to do something else. For food, think about food. If you don't eat in the morning, for some people that's a big stressor. For others, not so much. But our body is going to have to react in a certain way to keep our balance. You can think about emotions. Big emotions, the positive and negative emotions. Think about experiencing new emotions. For kids, they're really excited that yesterday was Valentine's Day. So really excited about Valentine's Day. Having the party is going to be a really exciting emotion. But that also means it's going to take energy to keep their balance. Cognitive stressors are ones about thinking and processing. It also is connected to sensory information as we're just trying to make sense of everything going on around us. So visual information, sounds, tactile, things we feel, those are all things that can be stressors for anybody. Social stressors are also a huge thing. Kids and adults. It's how we adapt and behave in social settings. So when we're having conversations, how we start a conversation. What if the conversation's not going well? What are we going to do? How are we getting along with people? How do we read social cues in other people, the signs that they give us? All these things can be stressors. And finally, pro-social stressors. This area is huge, and it's all around empathy. It's about our values, and it's going from the me, all about me, to we, to the group, and the stress that can cause for people as they're trying to deal with other people, dealing with other people's emotions, other people's stressors, what they need, the tension that between your values and a group value, or just tension in the group. So all these things are sort of the different areas that we think about when we're talking about stressors and stress that kids can have. Now those are all the sort of the areas that we can get into hidden stressors. It's always easy when someone, adult or child, and I always think of students, think of our kids at school, they're having a bad day. Did you have a fight with somebody? How'd you sleep last night? What'd you have for breakfast today? These are all questions I ask when someone's having a rough day. Those sometimes are the really obvious things, but there's also a whole other group of things called hidden stressors, which are really important to consider. They're the not so obvious ones. They're the ones that you need to look and listen for and watch to see if you can figure out. This gets into the idea of being a stress detective, that we're not just going for the one obvious thing, and that we're looking at the deeper pieces, working with the child, working with the student to figure out what's going on, what are the pieces behind this behavior. Because remember, we talked before about stress behaviors. We're not, when a child's having a rough time, when they get really upset, when there's a problem, we don't just say, you chose to do that, you're just looking for attention, you're just a bad kid, or you're just having a bad day. We're going to go, why are you doing this, and why are you doing this right now? And we start to really look at being a stress detective and ask these questions so we can dig in and help figure out what's going on. Because when we figure out what's going on, what are these stressors, then we can start looking at how we were going to reduce those and help the student become more aware of it. One other really important piece when you start thinking about stress is the multiplier effect of stress. Now, if you watch my first video, I was talking about an energy tank, like a fuel tank, and that's how I talk about it with the kids, that you have your fuel tank, and it can be high or it can be low. And when it starts to get low, that's when we have a hard time managing our energy, and we have a hard time dealing with things, and that's when we can flip that lid, we get upset, we get into the survival part of our brain with fight, flight, and freeze. Well, the problem with stress, especially if it's a big stressor, is that it actually drops that energy down, and then we have even less ability to manage things. So I was telling a story in my last video about the student that's getting upset, getting their snow pants on. Now, this actually does happen sometimes, if you can imagine. Little Stevie is having a hard time getting his snow pants on and has a complete meltdown, and you're like, it's not about the snow pants. Well, maybe Stevie didn't want to wear his snow pants because everyone else wasn't wearing them. So then we get into some social stressors, and then he actually gets really hot when he wears his snow pants outside. So then that's actually a biological stress. So he's going to get hot. He's worried what his friends are going to say, and then he's having to get them on because I'm telling him he has to, and you told him he had to. So then these are added stressors, added emotional stressors, and then someone bumps into him. So that's a social, but also another biological stressor of that bumping. So all these stressors are dropping his energy, and that final bump he got, well, that's actually why he got upset, because he got bumped, but he doesn't have the energy to manage this anymore, this social interaction of, you bumped me, but why'd you do it? Was it an accident? Did you do it on purpose? So then flips his lid, gets upset. I'm staying there with someone with their snow pants half on, in tears, maybe pushed a student too because they pushed the student back that bumped into them. And you're like, what's going on? So as an adult, I'm taking a breath. I'm going to calm everybody down, make sure everybody's okay, and then go through that self-reg process. I mentioned at the beginning, stress is the reality. That is life, especially when you go back to our definition of stress as being anything that requires us to expand energy to maintain a balance. Well, that's just as we navigate through the world, we have stressors on us. There's good stress and there's negative stress, but we can also cope well with it, and then we can have too much and we don't cope so well. So as parents, as teachers, we get pretty good at seeing or reading the cues of our kids about that they're coping well. Are they smiling? Are they cheerful? Are they enthusiastic? Are they kind of navigating that calm, alert sort of way through our house or through our school? When they're not, when we start to see, the downcast eyes, we start to see them just, their face is tight. They just look stressed. They're on their own. Those are all hints that there's too much stress going on, and we need to help navigate that. And I guess that's the piece that I want to end with, is that this is the challenge for us, and this is also the exciting part as a school, is that we're going to be doing more work to start talking to our kids around their energy levels, about what stressors look like, about how we're going to try and monitor that, and then help navigate through and figure out what our tools are to bring our energy up, if we need to bring it back down, how we can keep it and understand what brings it down. So that we're not just talking about when Stevie doesn't get his snow pants off or can't get them on, and then gets really upset, and we're like, okay, self-regulation, what are we going to do here? But we go through the bar of everybody is coping well. Everybody generally is going to be smiling and cheerful and in a good spot. Understanding that everyone has rough days, and that your energy does go down, and that you're going to need some support sometimes from an adult or a friend to help navigate through. that's the goal for our school being a self-regulation school, and that's a goal as me being the principal and helping the kids, the staff, myself manage our stress, manage our environment so that it's a positive, safe place that we can do this together. So I'm glad I got to talk to you a little bit about this. I hope that I gave you some more information about stress, what we're going to talk about when we talk about stress, what we mean, and how we'll be working on this as a school. Thank you.